ends. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You built these weapons to destroy us. Why? Because you are afraid of our gifts. Because we are different. Humanity has always feared that which is different. Well, I'm here to tell you, to tell the world, you're right to fear us. We are the future. We are the ones who will inherit this earth. And anyone who stands in our way will suffer the same fate as these men you see before you. Today was meant to be a display of your power. Instead, I give you a glimpse of the devastation my race can unleash upon yours. Let this be a warning to the world, and to my mutant brothers and sisters out there. I say this: no more hiding, no more suffering. You have lived in the shadows in shame and fear for too long. Come out, join me, fight together in a brotherhood of our kind. You tomorrow, that starts today.
Tá lá o corpo estendido no chão. Em vez de rosto, uma foto de um gol. Em vez de rezo, uma praga de alguém. E um silêncio servindo de amém. O bar mais perto depressa lotou. Malandro junto com trabalhador. Um homem subiu na mesa do bar e fez discurso pra vereador. E veio camelô vender anel, cordão, perfume barato e a baiana pra fazer pastel. E um bom churrasco de gato às 4 horas da manhã. Achou o santo na porta-bandeira e a moçada resolveu parar. Então, tá lá o corpo estendido no chão. Em vez de rosto, uma foto de um gol. Em vez de rezo, uma praga de alguém. E um silêncio servindo de amém. Sem pressa foi cada um pro seu lado, pensando numa mulher ou num tio. Olhei o corpo no chão e fechei minha janela de frente pro crime. Veio camelô vender anel, cordão, perfume barato e a baiana pra fazer pastel. E um bom churrasco de gato às 4 horas da manhã. Baixou o santo na porta-bandeira e a moçada resolveu parar. Então, tá lá o corpo estendido no chão.
Peace, peace to the east, the west, the north, and south. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising, the 9th gate. I know we've been off for a couple weeks because we've been in conference mode. Big up to all of everyone who've joined us for the beautiful, masterful, absolutely amazing conference. Thank you everyone who joined, who supported. We're all in post-conference mode. I'm grateful to be back on Aquarius Rising Ninth Gate as usual. This is how this is probably just the base of how we began our journey with this particular show. So I'm grateful for who's joining tonight. Now that is Joyce Passagino. I love that song. It's from 1976. She's from Brazil. I love her complete album. So if you don't get a chance, this is my music that I'm definitely going to play on my route to Brazil. So big up to the family. Big up to everyone north and who joined us in Florida. Big up to Sensei, of course, one of my admins, of course. Big up to Selma. Big up to Borazine. Big up to, of course, no other than Barry Littleton, who came and rocked it out. Big up to, of course, Cheryl, who came, who was so amazing. She came with her third eye glasses. Big up to Lynn, who joined us. Big up to, actually, all the Sea Stars. Big up to also Darrow, who joined us. Big up to Carlos. Big up to Kirk. Big up to everyone who joined us. Hey, Eliza. Big up to everyone who joined us in the conference. Again, we're in post-conference mode. I had a vision a couple years ago that was able to come to fruition, and it superseded any level of expectation that I or any of the people who actually attended could have ever imagined. So thank you again for your loving support. And again, a lot of intel. Big up to Sonia Barrett, who came in blazing with that Matrix debunking, basically breaking down the Matrix and the holographic system, and also talking about the I don't want to give too much away. Anyway, so when you get a chance, we have someone who documented the entire conference, and when he is done and it is edited, it is ready to be out, I will definitely put that out, and so everyone will get a chance to actually experience what we did at the conference. So big up. So tonight I was doing a show, and of course, Wade 13 contacted me over while I was at the conference and said, listen, I've got some intel. Drake wants to come on the show. I was like, hey, this is around the time that the 31st, that notorious 31st, that the other Sea Star was saying that something was supposed to go down. So I thought it was only in the wave of synchronicity that we would actually have him on tonight. So especially after we just came back from the Fountain of Youth. Big up to those who joined me in the Fountain of Youth. As you can see, I'm feeling really refreshed. Okay, I think we have Drake calling in. Let me accept the call. Hold on one moment. Peace, hello? Peace, peace, peace to the east, the west, the north, and the south. Who's this on the line tonight?
This is Drake.
Drake, hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm sorry about calling in a little bit late, but...
No, that's okay. We actually
I get intel information over the phone or on the internet or whatever.
Absolutely. Hold on a moment, Drake. I'm going to put you on speaker so that everyone can hear you clearly and soundly. Okay. Give me a minute. We just started off on the platform. So I'm setting up the speakers. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Drake, can you say something? Let me see if it's working.
How do?
There we go, Drake. Yes, Drake. I was just saying to everyone that we just came from the Fountain of Youth for the second time. Thank you for that intel. A couple of us ended up going to, after my conference, the UFO conference that I just held this weekend, hey Maitreya, quite a few of us ended up going to the Fountain of Youth, and I found it very, very invigorating and yes, on point. So thank you, Drake, for that intel. We followed suit and we made sure we did a little trek over to the Fountain of Youth in Florida. So we appreciate the intel.
Well, that's part of what I'm supposed to do is turn people on to things that work. Now, for that. Okay?
Yes.
And what you do is you go in to the main springs and spend about an hour and a half or less. It can work anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depends on the individual. And you'll feel like you're like you just ate a meal, kind of like you're full.
Yes.
And at that point, you get out, dry off, take a shower, whatever, and go on. When you come back the following day, you want to go across the street in the outfall.
Oh.
Yeah, and spend about an hour in there.
The outfall, see,
it is the point.
We were trying to figure out.
Fresh water and water from the springs mix.
We were trying to figure out what you meant by across the street, because we thought you meant over that little bridge when you go in. They wouldn't let us go over there. So you mean across the street there's another entry point that we go in?
You just have to walk through the woods.
Oh, okay. Walk through the woods on the same property?
Well, it's just plain old. It was public property. I don't know what it is now.
Okay. Ah, interesting. And then we take a swim there. We didn't do that. We actually just did the springs. But thank you, because we couldn't figure out where the outfall. We couldn't. Yeah, Boudica says we couldn't figure out where the outfall was. So we were.
Well, at the south end of the pond or the pool, that's where the excess water goes, or the outfall.
Okay. So now,
and there's an energy in the water, and then there's an energy that is released when it mixes with fresh water. Two different kinds of energies.
Interesting. Okay. So now we have to do another Exodus family to actually follow directions. We were trying to figure out. You
have to do the pool one day, and then the following day another hour and a half in the outfall.
Outfall. Okay. So the outfall is across the street. It's through the woods, I'm assuming, and we go in the outfall. What does it look like? Anything? Is it just like an opening where the water is?
I don't know. I ain't been there in a while.
Okay. So we'll figure it out next time, family. So I guess we have another trip plans with a few of us to try to find the outfall. But thank you. We actually, Boudica, you going again? Yeah, we'll probably go again. But we're really grateful that you gave us that intel. Thank you again. We actually followed suit, and we did do a little trek over after the conference. I did one previous to the conference, but a lot of our famille joined us. So I'm grateful that you gave us that intel. So thank you again. So
you're very welcome.
Yeah. So Drake, what's going on in the world? I'm so excited that you're coming on. Exactly. You're right on time. There's so much occurring right now as far as the Matrix is concerned. Can you give us a little bit of intel? What's going on with the governmental system as far as the financial collapse?
Well, you're not going to have a financial collapse. You're going to have a financial reset.
Okay.
Bit different. And it's not probably going to happen until possibly winter. It'll start in fall and then culminate a few months later. The most interesting thing is the fight we got going on for our country right now.
Okay.
That's critical.
What's going on as far as that? What's going on as far as that's concerned?
Well, I don't know how many people pay attention, but the ideology of liberalism always seems to use somebody else's lunch money for one thing, and the generalized policies, they don't. The people that would institute such things, haven't thought it through in terms of who's going to pay for it, or how is it going to be funded, and that sort of thing. I don't know if you watched the news lately, if anybody did, but it would seem that everybody and their mother-in-law thinks that Trump ought to be hung for treason or some such because he met with Putin.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be surprised as to the good deals coming out of that.
Well, I'm actually a fan of Putin. I've always been of the Russian president. I felt like he was always very transparent. I think the collaboration between the two will be beneficial. As I know that Putin is, again, he's a very trans, I can see through his language. He does share a lot. He doesn't really hide a lot, and he doesn't really, he doesn't really apologize for his politics and how he goes about running his country. So I've always been a fan of him personally. Transparent. Thank you, Maitreya.
Yeah, well, there's some other things going on. One of the questions that Trump asked Putin was about the Russian hacking.
Yes, which we know happens. We do know that happens.
And Putin, you noticed, I don't know if you noticed, but Putin's hackles went up. He was getting ready to get upset about it. And there's a reason for that. This won't come out for about another month, but it wasn't Russia.
Interesting. Was it North Korea?
No.
Okay.
No. This is an independent group.
Okay. A rogue group, international group, not in America. Was it in the States?
They're located all over the planet.
Okay. So you're saying it was a rogue group that actually hacked the election. It wasn't necessarily the Russians who've been blamed for that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. A really good hacker, and I know a couple, they can make it look like it came from any place they feel like they want to make it look like it came from. Very simply, they said. I said, it's really easy, and he said, oh, yeah. It's like the internet provider. You have a number for that. Now, here's the other part. Your computer has a number.
Yes.
Okay? If you change those numbers, you can make it look like it came from anybody.
That is true. Yeah.
And that's exactly what a professional hacker does.
Exactly.
They know that they're going to leave a trail. Well, if somebody is good enough to open that surprise package up, then what they'll find is what the hacker wants them to find.
Yes. Okay. So it's basically smoke and mirror. It's just acting as if it's coming from one direction. Meanwhile, they bait and switch. They made it look like it was coming from the direction of the Russians. And meanwhile, it was an independent rogue group that actually did the hacking. Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
And what you want to know, here's another little secret. Everybody's heard of George Soros.
Of course.
The guy that funds the riots and things like that.
Yes.
Now you know the major funding source for these hackers.
Oh, interesting. So he's financially he's the financier of these hackers. Well,
He's the financier of a bunch of things that won't float in the toilet.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Well, Drake, we've got some intel from a young lady online. She is dealing with her own set of whistleblowers, and there was some intel detailing that something is supposed to happen on the 31st of this month. Do you have any clue what she's speaking of, or do you have any wind of something about to come in the mist around the 31st of this month?
Yeah, but it's not that close. More like mid-August to the beginning of September.
Oh.
And it's a surprise. I've been requested not to say anything about it.
Interesting. So there is a little truth to, well, the general consensus that something is happening big. Can you? I know you can't say anything. Is it something that is financial? Is it more ET based? Is it more Matrix based? Can you give it?
Well, it's a combination. That's what the fun part about it is. Everybody's been hollering about cleaning up the governmental systems. Everybody's been trying to find ET and see how they play a part in all this. And the two are going to co-join sometime in fall.
Interesting. I'm excited to see. Again, this is one young lady who I'm affiliated somewhat with online, and she has her own set of whistleblowers that detailed something was going to happen at the end of this month. But again, I never correlate with the dates, but usually just with the energies, or usually something shows up roughly around times of dates, not necessarily on the dates per se.
I go to set dates, but I'm not allowed to give them out.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
I know. Here's the thing: if you got an enemy and you're looking to attack them, the first thing you don't do
is give a date.
Telegraph what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Or let them know you're coming.
Absolutely. When. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You don't want to give any intel because obviously they'll be waiting to evade whatever's coming for them. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're not getting away with this one.
So, as far as the intel tonight, I heard you have some interesting new technology you were willing to share with us that is coming out in the mist that you have something to do with. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, some. Okay. Power supplies that don't require batteries or power inputs, but produce electricity. That's one. ET is going to start supplying people with replicators Replicators will take care of a bunch of things. It can make just about anything according to size, such as whatever clothes you might think you would like. Let's see here, whatever food you might think you need, a part for your car, whatever.
Interesting. So replicators will be available via ET soon.
Yeah, you have a thing called, everybody calls it the ascension, and it's not an ascension. It's a transition.
Okay.
We're going to come out of this test tube 3D, squeeze people and see what comes out routine of life into what's known as the following or advanced dimension. And they come in threes. We're in the 3D now, so you got to go to 6 eventually. But getting out of this, and I'm talking everything on the planet, plants, animals, people, all of us, transition. Then we all get to go to school, learn how not to blow things up, screw things up, or scare the cat too badly, or whatever.
So basically, when we're going through this transition, we're not the only life that will go through it. You're saying the animals, the plants will also go through their form of evolutionary transition to be able to acclimate to the new energetic field that we're entering?
Yeah, but it's different than evolution. It's a transition from one basic frequency to the new basic frequency. Deals a lot with the human frequency. The human frequency was, what was it, 7.43 for years.
Okay.
And I mean thousands of years. Okay. Then all of a sudden it started going up slowly. And right now it's around 20 something, somewhere between 20 and 30. And when it reaches about 35, then the excess energy created by that change in the frequency will allow the transition.
Now, I noticed something, Drake, that could have to do with this, and I'm going to ask you this question. I'm noticing that people are having physical ailments associated with lung issues, including my mother. And I found this interesting that she was not the only one. There's quite a few people in the States, and I'm assuming this is not just in the States, it's probably globally, that are having issues acclimating to the new energies, or their bodies are trying to recalibrate it, and maybe they don't have the necessary enzymes or energetic field to be able to do so. Can you do you think there's a correlation there with some people? The pneumonia is going around, and I found it interesting that I saw certain people energetically are catching the pneumonia, including my mother. Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Have you got the other phone? Okay. Basically, those are your system, physical system, reacting to the change in the frequency. That's primarily what that is.
Okay.
The best thing that you can do for all that is to be sure that you supplement yourself.
Okay.
General things like, B-complex, C, vitamin A, D, and all those. But also some kind of a decent oil, like walnut or something like that.
Yes.
Take a teaspoon of that a day.
Black walnut, yes.
Yeah, and what it'll do is it allows your system to better handle the symptoms of the frequency change.
I'm eating walnuts as you're talking about it. Something with walnut oil. It's all relative. Yeah, because I just
eat walnuts, almonds, pistachios, all that sort of thing. That's really excellent.
Interesting.
To help with this process.
Yeah, because I just noticed that my mom, who got very sick prior to my conference, she was one of many, which I found out later, who's having issues with a supposed new virus, a pneumonia, a type of pneumonia that's hitting quite a few people of same genetic patterning. And I found it interesting that it's hitting people who have similar genetics. And And I feel like this is definitely related to now some, everything's relative, is everything incorporated with it, but the energetic field is changing and that might have something to do with it. Thank you for kind of touching on that a little bit.
One of the things you can do is take an atomizer, something that makes a spray, and put water in it, as decent water as you got, and anywhere from 3 to 5 drops of colloidal silver.
Yes.
Okay, spray it in your mouth and inhale at the same time.
Okay, I understand. So it gets into the
That'll
lung.
help
It
a bunch.
aspirates the lungs.
The other thing for breathing or lung problems is chloride. Any of the energy things that have chloride in it definitely will help
Chloride?
your breathing.
Chloride? Chloride and...
Chloride, yeah. CHLORITE.
Okay, chloride. Okay. That would be helpful. Yeah, because I found it very interesting. That was something that is starting to come about. But again, some of the physical. I'm starting to get some of the physical symptoms again that I had previous years. The heart palpitations and everything. They usually comes it's every 360 days. It comes around full circle every year. So around the same time, I tend to get very similar symptoms of what people consider to be ascension symptoms around the same time every year. More exasperated at one time as opposed to another.
Well, there's another supplement, and everybody ought to try to get it. It's not real expensive. It's called Host Defense.
Host? Wait, let me get that. Host? Can someone write that down? Host Defense?
Yep.
Host Defense. And what exactly is that?
It's about 20 different kinds of mushroom extract.
Okay.
And it works for like hay fever and all that stuff. It also works for the symptoms.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, someone has it. Thank you, Carlos. Okay, they're putting it down. Thank you. So now we're starting to see a difference. Now, what ET groups are now becoming more prevalent in this new transition? Are we going to see I'm noticing that more talk is happening towards the blue avians, which I know generally blue avians don't really get involved, but I noticed that on a lot of the backlay, the blue avians is coming up. What's going on with them?
Well, the blue avians are, I don't know, kind of like an association or some such in terms of their relationship to the people that are doing this. The main people, the Galactic Consortium, consists of about 2,500 races. The predominant one for us happens to be the Palladians.
Okay.
And the Palladians look like us. That's first. That kind of helps. I mean, it's kind of hard to be friendly with something that that looks like a.
Is adverse to your physicality? Yes.
And so the Palladians look human. They're not funny colored or anything, but I heard rumors, and I've heard this from at 3 different places, that they're beginning to show up and offer care packages. In other words, they give you a what's called a health reset capsule.
Okay.
And it resets your health back to when you was a teenager.
Okay.
I mean, super healthy and a load of energy. Now, it doesn't mess with your mind. You still know everything you know now.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here.
Who's giving the care packages, Drake? Who's giving these care packages?
Well, the other one part of it is replicators. Another part is what's known as healing machines.
Okay.
Healing machines are the computer-generated frequencies that adjust you according to what you should be.
Okay.
And that's basically one of those that does that.
Are the ET groups giving this to us? Are specific groups that we're associated with giving these care packages, or is this a governmental system that's working in sync?
That's CT.
Okay, that's
Purely
ET based. Okay.
None of the, it's not time yet for the governments to get involved in this stuff.
Okay.
That comes later. We will end up with a bit of a different governance than what has been going on before. To go along with that, you're going to lose having money and a whole bunch of things that are, basic to the galactic societal structure. There'd be jobs for anybody who wants to do something. Let's see here, and they will give you a combination of technology and personal enhancement so that you can be the best artist or whatever. On demand.
So
and everybody gets a place to live, food to eat, clothes to wear, and we go from there.
So another question I have for you is regarding Israel and Syria right now that are having backfire back left and right. We know that there's a Stargate in Tel Aviv in Israel, as far as I know. What is going on?
No, it's in Iraq.
Is it?
Yeah. We accidentally stumbled across it with our military. They didn't know what they was doing. They fooled around with it, and some people disappeared and stuff. They haven't been able to find them since. So they decided to back off and leave it alone.
Okay.
Don't fool with it. It might gobble you up kind of thing.
Yes.
But as far as the Mideast, okay, the differentials are being worked out as we speak. Now, by differentials, I mean the differences and the things that go middle of the road and, let's see here, gives most everybody what they need. Now, one of the things that's desperately needed, and this is going to be one of the first projects, all of the war zones, whether it's Palestine or Syria or wherever there's been mass destruction, ET is going to show us new building techniques and new building materials in such a manner that people can have a home complete in a matter of a few hours, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And it'll withstand just about any kind of weather you can think of.
So very, very weather friendly, resistant, and resilient. Now.
Yeah, well, they're getting ready to come down. This was the great alien invasion, supposedly. They're getting ready to come down and join with mankind and see to the problems. We have, unbelievably, the richest country in the world, and we got people that are hungry. Mm-hmm. We got people because of vampirical companies who can't find a place to live. All of these things will be seen to.
Now, the resolvement that you're stating, that's coming. Will the Dark Cabal be able to enjoy these new fruitful and bounties that are coming, or will they be a consequence for those who have done harm to humanity and the planet?
Okay, the people that have been harmful, the people that have done the nasty things, ET will collect them and run them through what we would consider an impossibly complex and complete rehab. In other words, their thinking will be changed to where they consider others more than themselves, one of the main problems. The ideology of money, when it goes, removes 90% of the problems of the planet.
Of course.
Okay. Well, when you see to the needs of people who have been needy, and by that I mean, what happens if you no longer have these, let's see here, enablers and modes of power such as money,
yes,
fuel, things of this nature? What happens when all that goes? I mean,
it
changes over to a technology where you don't ever put nothing in your car again.
Okay. So
you're talking about major changes. Now, let's take this a step further. The ideology of hate, whether it's religious, race, whatever it might be, that goes.
Well,
And
prejudice
that would
comes
be
along
part
with
of,
hierarchy.
that's part of the
Yes.
transition.
Yeah. Along with fiat and with hierarchy based on fiat, have and have nots, that usually leaves. Prejudice usually are associated with some of those formulated systems being based on, wealth and people who don't have wealth, kind of like that.
Right.
And it's
Exactly.
it trickulates on all aspects of those, those different levels and tiers. Now, question.
It's a great equalizing mode when we go through the transition. Transition will happen instantaneously, and then people will start discovering that they don't have symptoms anymore, but they just forgot to open the door and walked right through it. Oh boy.
Interesting.
Now you see why we got to go to school and understand what we are, what we can
Absolutely.
do, what we are not allowed to do. Don't screw with this, that sort of thing.
Now, your concept of the pole shift is that the pole shift will not happen in the way I detailed that the pole shift is to happen it's a planetary shift, just a magnetic shift that the planet does herself. She does it every 2,600 or 3,600 years, something roundabout in that area. What is your take on that? I think you said before you don't think that there'll be a full-on pole shift. Now, with the fissures opening up...
Well, see, the reason for that was to cause the population to move north to south or south to north.
A migrational pattern.
And this cuts down on people in terms of possessions, okay? In terms of you can only pack so much gold or money with you.
True.
And which do you want? Do you want water and food, or do you want money and gold? These sort of simple decisions have a tendency to reshape and reinitiate the society that we should always have had, and we have not had it.
Because I noticed that the fissure is opened in Yellowstone. There was one that just opened, I think, last night or yesterday, 100-foot fissure. Looking like there might be some active super activity underway, and it could be triggered by what's going on in the Big Island. Do you have any intel on that?
Well, you got to understand that Kilauea is not erupting as a true eruption.
It's not natural.
Comes about.
Yeah, it's not natural.
It's not blowing lava into the air mostly. It's still weeping like it has before. Mm-hmm. Now, my geophysicists that happen to be ETs, and they're the ones that make sure that the volcanic eruptions and whatnot are not devastating. Okay, they've told me that none of the supervolcanoes will erupt, to include Yellowstone. Okay. That the fissure and other openings might open up, and we might have lava weep out of it. Okay. But that's as far as that would go. No major earthquakes or any of the other apocalyptic events everybody's been talking about.
Okay. So it's just a matter, and could it be pressure system? Sometimes fissures open to relieve and to alleviate some pressure, some inner pressure. Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. As far as, again, let's go back to some of the ET groups. You're saying Pelagians have a very pinnacle part of the changes, the transition. How about some of the other groups as far as to your knowledge, some of the other groups as far as the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Anunnaki? What are their placement to your knowledge? What is their placement in our new cycle?
You got to remember, 2,500 different races, okay?
Yes.
They work in shifts, conjunctions, trade-offs, whatever. You might meet people that look like they ought to be a basketball star. Hey, man, you're 8 foot tall.
Yeah.
And you look a bit different, that sort of thing. People that can handle that very probably will be having those as their mentors.
Yes. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Now, ET has landed in my backyard about 6-8 times. They had a problem with stability coming from a higher dimension to a lower one, and they found out the problem, and it was dealing with the old matrix system that was enveloping our planet. The one that replaced it interfere with us. It does, however, effectively, it lays siege to the planet in terms of not letting nobody in or out.
Okay.
In other words, the oligarchs that have been playing games with extra powers that ETs have been giving them, all of a sudden are finding that they can't access that anymore. The demons that they've been worshiping have been put in detention.
Yes, that's to my knowledge as well.
Talk to
There's a cap. There's a cap on beings who have been using demonics to that have been giving them so-called superhuman strength or in psychic abilities. There's a cap because those beings are being held, like you said, held in a retention center, and the people who are utilizing them no longer have access to that type of ability that allowed them to have home court, much more,
But that's why you have right now the socialist liberals all jumping up and down screaming and trying to push their agenda.
Well, aren't the socialized liberals Satanists and Luciferian sects? To my knowledge, that's part of the Luciferian satanic sect. A lot of the liberal, quote unquote, what we see as the libertarians. Don't you?
Not really.
No? Okay.
No, you have to understand that you have two levels of all this. Luciferians are just like the oligarchs. They now cannot get a hold of the people that were giving them extra powers.
Yes.
Oops. That kind of screws up the church ceremony when God says, I'm talking to you people, and closes the door in your face. The ideology of all of these so-called secret groups, whatever they may be, is the fact that they have had extra capabilities. They no longer have those capabilities.
I noticed that a lot of the beings that are cultists, part of the old brotherhood, are having issues where they're dealing with a lot of karma right now. We noticed that some of the Moorish community, some of the Moors, the Martians that were part of, they're on the outskirts of the old boys group, but we're finding that a lot of them are getting some karmic residue. Like they're no longer able to hold mind control over a lot of the normally they were able to hold an advantage over everyone else, and we're noticing a lot of them are being called out and and unable to hold their power and paralysis over the populace like they used to. So I agree with you.
Okay, well, you have to understand something, okay? First of all, and real basically, the ideology and definition of karma, as most have it here in the West, doesn't exist. The ideology that if you commit a sin, you have to repay it is not correct. What is correct is specifically what was stated: go and sin no more. Now, when you understand what the word sin means, it means doing wrong. Doesn't matter what level. Evil thoughts, all the way to killing people.
Yes.
Same thing. Same level of condemnation for that. Well, the problem is that there is no condemnation. What there is a reset of you, a reset of the individual that acts that way.
Okay.
And when I say rehab, what they get is in some cases, their minds have to be rewired. And we don't have the technology, but ET does. So you have to look at this as a combination of things where people are going to wonder why they were bullies or mean to people or whatever. I don't understand why I was like that, and they probably go apologize to people, which is cool. You have to understand that humankind is unique in that it can set its reality. In other words, what you want for your day, the way you want your day to go, the things that you want to transpire in your day are all your decision.
Absolutely. Well,
okay. I mean, people don't understand that wherever they are, that's exactly where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. I think at the conference, Sonia Barrett, one of our guest lecturers, did speak on this, that there's no such thing as all these beings coming for you. There's only you. So it's only aspects of you that is dealing with you. So there's no, all the energy vampires, all the, the parasitic entities that you're trying to run away from are aspects of self. And once you resolve and become self-aware, you can actually, transition and, transmute those energies and have an understanding that you are everything. You control your ebb and flow, and you set up your life in order to deal or to evolve in aspects of spirituality that will elevate you to higher levels of frequency and vibration.
Yeah, well, the problem with all that is very simple. There are entities outside of ourselves that are vampires that do eat people, and
yes.
These are the only entities. There's about 5 or 6 of them that we are going to have to deal with
Draconian.
up close and personal.
Oh.
Now we will be under instruction not to kill them. Okay?
Really? Okay.
Not to destroy them. Simply capture them.
Okay.
And ET will come pick them up and take them to where they need to go and get them right.
Do you think...
Now there are just a few of these so-called energy beings that cannot be rehabbed. It's like a scorpion stings. Doesn't matter if you like the idea or not.
It's going to do that.
It's in its nature, okay? And it cannot still be a scorpion and not sting. Very simply, these things are very similar to that in that respect. Thus, what happens is that these things are made inert. In other words, disassembled, in terms of best term I have, is uncreated.
Okay.
And all of what they are goes back to the great pools of soul life and spirit, from which where everybody is drawn, where every entity is drawn. And that way, when they need a new one, they take a certain amount of each, put it into an individual, or incarnate into an individual, and you have a good individual instead of that nasty being. That's the big difference between what has transpired in our past, what we know, and what ET can do.
Now,
okay,
I agree. And does this have to do with the fact that no longer there isn't any longer a option for low field beings to be born on Earth? That there are, especially we're noticing that there are certain males that are unable to create children right now that have low field behavior. Does this have to do with that? The fact that beings that are not matching the frequency of where the planet is going to, or
that's only partial.
Okay.
Okay, and that's rare instances. All of the things that do not correlate with being fruitful and multiplying will be taken care of.
Okay.
Okay, you're known by your fruits. If you do good to people, that's what people are going to think about you. When you have a stranger that you've been saying hello to every morning for 10 years, smiles or start smiling when you say hello to them. Man, it don't get no better than that.
That's right.
You don't know them from Adam, but they're happy that you're there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so what say you with the Draconians? The Draconians are one of the more difficult groups, and the Draconians are kicking and fighting right now as they are now being required to either stand down or to leave, which many of them do not want to do. And they are some of the most tyrannical and the strongest warrior class of reptilians that does exist. What will be done with them? Because a lot of even some of the ET groups are very intimidated with them, even though we have alliances that are here to set forth that balance. What are you saying with these Draconians?
My group has been wiping them out.
Oh, wow.
We're the ones that have been cleaning up the underground bases, deep underground military bases, or ET sites.
Okay.
of the kind that you're talking about, you have to remember there's about 15 or 20 draconian races.
Yes.
There's only 3 or 4
That are hostile.
that are nasty.
That are hostile, yes.
The rest of them are nice. But the ones that ain't nice, use them for target practice.
You know, and also in the ET community, we have David Wilcock and also David Good and the Gaia Network going down. Do you know anything about this? As far as Wilcock says, Gaia is part of the satanic Luciferian sect, and he no longer wants to be associated with them. And also, I think,
got it.
What do you say about Wilcock's trying to jump ship off a network that he's obviously been a party to for many, many years? Whether they were Luciferian or satanic sect, he did know that while he was under contract. Why all of a sudden? No?
No, it was kept from him.
Okay.
Let's see here. In certain circles, there's a thing called a cloak of invisibility. This is not limited to one simple physical item. Now, that cloak of invisibility also is a derivative of the veil. There is a veil between 3D and 4D that most cannot penetrate. You can't see through it, can't get through it, can't get around or over it, etc. It's there and you're stuck. That is the kind of hiding or ability to hide that was pulled on David Wilcock.
Okay.
Now, I sent him an email. Let's see, what was it, about 6 weeks ago or so?
Okay.
And it was embedded with spiritual wake-ups. That's sort of like firecrackers just going off in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what it did was it imparted to him the knowledge he needed to have, the insight he used to have. It cleared him of the influence that he was under, so that he could see what was going on. Okay. As soon as he did, bingo, he's no longer associated with those nasties.
So you basically decloaked the network by sending him things that would help to invoke his memory or aspects where allow him to see clearer, give him some clarity.
Let me put it this way. There's an old sci-fi movie called They Live.
Yes, we know that. Yes, that's one of our favorite.
Well, that type of control is what is the type, it's very subtle, you don't notice it, that is used against people that they want to keep under their control,
yes,
or to keep associated with. And that's how that works.
Absolutely. Well, we know that they do it even in the occult system, where there are many occultists who utilize that same principle of kind of cloaking their agendas or who they may be or who they're associated with. And some of the Masons groups do that as well, so that you're walking amongst them and you have no idea, and nor would you question it based on the fact that they have some sort of telepathic ability to kind of hold your consciousness in a certain frame of reference, that you don't ask questions and you don't even know something exists beyond what you see and what's being projected to you.
Well, that's what a lot of those guys don't like about me. If I'm walking along or some such and I see one, none of that hiding works.
Good. Well, yes, we know many of us, including myself. That's one thing that we did break the code of disillusion, which just allowed them from being able to hide themselves. And they're aware that many of us can see them.
Then I point fingers at them and all that. So.
Which is why probably in the last show, they made sure they knocked off the show last time you were on. They didn't like that. Now, let's see. As far as time frame, we're looking forward to this year, the projections of this year coming up energetically. We're now looking upon the Lionsgate, which was a big, profound moment last year when we had the solar eclipse, which really changed. It really, well, at least with myself and quite a few other people, it really, really upped the ante as far as energetic energies, receptivity to these higher energies. And what say you is going to be the result of this year's Lionsgate, if at all any, and what do you project some of the major profound things that are going to be happening this year? 2018.
Well, the most profound things that you can think of would be removing all the crooks that are major players.
We're good with that.
Both in government and industry.
Yes.
In other words, cutting the heart out of the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, the advent, introduction, and opening of the very secretive ET question. Are they really there? Well, when you shake hands with one, that sort of takes care of that problem. And that's basically you're going to have ships landing arbitrarily here and there, right places, right time, with the stuff that people need. They're going to start with the worst cases first,
okay,
and slowly work their way to, I don't know. I'm probably lower class. I really don't know where my stature would be. But all the way through the hierarchy. Now, I know several, and I mean, they're richy. And yet they did it honestly. They simply were good business people, and they took care of business, and they saw to what the needs of their people were, so they created a combination of a reliable company as well as one that takes care of its people. Very rare commodity today. Well, I've had about a half a dozen calls from these multi-trillionaires.
yes.
How do I protect myself? And I said, well,
Wow.
you need to lay up the things that are most important. You're going to have some kind of money, maybe. But the most important thing would be to see to it that you can produce food and that you got clean water to drink. And if you can do that and you're serving others rather than yourself, ET looks very favorably on that and will make things happen that are, golden age stuff.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's all relative to your level of consciousness and how you show up in the world. And if you're seen as a steward of the earth and you're actually your vibration and frequency is matching that of the times of the golden age that we're going upon, those things you'll have access to those things that come along with those time frames. So
well, the other part about it is that some of these people do extractions, whether it's minerals, oil, or what it might be. And they return, or they've been doing this on their own, they return the area that they extract from back to its original state. They make sure that the water is not polluted in the process that they are involved in. They make sure that the air is still breathable. And like if they need to replant a forest, they do it. Now, they've been doing this on their own for about, 15, 20 years now that I'm aware of. Aren't very many of them doing it, but they are doing it. So when you change from mountaintop removal or strip mining to more direct application of extraction, that helps.
okay.
But when you return what you have taken to an extent where plants and animals and everything can be right again, and you're doing it on your own, nobody told you gotta, no requirements or laws telling you this is the right thing to do. They listened to their conscience and they had enough money and they just did it. And I looked at that as a privilege to talk to somebody like that.
That's awesome. Good. So, Drake, this is upon the time when people may have questions for you. Are you okay with taking some questions?
Yeah.
I'm
not going to talk about my underwear, but other than that, we're okay.
Absolutely not. But yes, we'll may have some questions. So for anyone calling in right now, our number is 515-605-9881. Again, 515-605-9881. You know that you have to press the number 1. We're going to limit our questions to 5 minutes, the conversation to 5 minutes each, so that people can have their moment in time to ask a question as well. So just be mindful that when you come on, that you're very mindful of the time frame that we have of 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to start off with our first person who's calling in at 903-1174. You're on the line with Fleur Brune and Drake. Peace, family. 903-1174. Peace. Going once. Hello. 903-1174. You're on the line with Fleur Brune and Drake. They may not be aware that they're on. Okay, we'll go to the next caller. I may come back to you, 903. Next caller is 412-0999. I like your last number is 0999. You're on the line with Fleur Brune and Drake. Peace, family.
Hey, what's up, sis?
What's good? Who's this?
This is Chrissy from Cypher.
Oh, Chrissy, I missed you. What happened? Anyway, I know we can't talk about this right now. What's up, Chrissy?
No, I'll talk to you about that later.
Yes.
But I have a question. How you doing, Mr. Drake?
I'm doing good. You?
Hello. I'm doing all right. Do all my the main thing I ain't expect y'all to pick me, but
that's okay.
I've been having visions about a lot of things, and everything been coming true.
Okay.
Is that part of the upgrade?
Yeah, this is one of the symptoms that a lot of people are going to have. It'd be dreams. Let me think here. Visions, daydreams, you name it. Knowing something. No idea how you know it, but you know it. And when you say something to somebody about it, all of a sudden it happens in the next few days or some such. That really freaks people out.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's
get
why
used
I
to
don't
it.
talk too much about it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, if it affects a certain person, tell them you've seen a vision about things that are going to happen to them. And they're great things. Usually they're all good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
But
Just tell them the next few days you're going to have something. Yeah?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, dear.
Well, what you're going to do is you're going to freak some people out, but they're going to listen to you when you tell them you got something to say to them.
That is
when
true.
I do mention stuff to people, they be like, oh, that's too much. You're hurting my head. I'm getting a headache. I'm confused when I start talking about certain things. And that's why I really don't talk to nobody but, like, my Cypher family. You know what I'm saying? We correspond on Facebook and stuff like that. I don't really talk to nobody because they act real ignorant. It's like they're this net. It's like I'm trapped in the Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. That's how I feel.
I understand.
Well, that pretty much is what I term the Twilight Zone syndrome. People cannot handle it when people prophesy or tell the future or let somebody know that, hey man, there's some problems you've been having and they're all going to just kind of vanish. And they give you a strange look. My head hurts. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, but you got the message over. That's all you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. As long as I got it out, you know what I'm saying? They can't even try to say, well, I ain't know. Yes, you did know. Because you can tell them.
I hear that.
Exactly.
But you wanted to play ignorant like you had that migraine and run off somewhere else. You knew.
But the funny part is,
had to face the consequence. I get it.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, when you see them the next time, they're going to give you funny looks.
Yes, they will, because they'll realize.
I've been getting that from a couple. I say a handful of people. They done eyeballed me sideways, and I'm like, and y'all call me crazy, Chrissy.
Some people you just don't have to worry about.
Absolutely. Well, Chrissy, make sure you contact me later on after the show, like this week, okay? And we'll chat.
Oh yes, definitely.
All right.
I appreciate talking to y'all. See you, Mr. Drake. Have a nice evening.
Peace, Chrissy.
You're welcome.
Okay. We'll go to our next caller, 813-7273. You're on the line with Fleur Brune and Drake. Peace, family. 813-72.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm sorry. What's your name? I'm so sorry. I don't.
Drake.
Our guest. Yes, sorry, I'm on late.
Drake is our.
How are you?
He's well. I think talk up just a little bit more on Cesar. Are you there?
Hello? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's great.
Peace.
Alrighty, yes. This is Lou, and I was making sure I came tell you that I really appreciate you doing the conference. I felt it all the way from home, and it's a gift, even all the way over here. So I really wanted to tell you, big ups and thank you for having that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I have a question too.
Yeah.
So I've always been gifted psychically, but writing and drawing have always been when I was unaware of my own psychic gift. Not so much unaware, but when I wasn't trying to label them. And growing up with it, writing and drawing was always where the truth came out and where my confirmation came from. So I used to always write a little short story about the year 2019. And I told you about this a while ago, Fleur. We were talking on the phone. We had a key.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know if you had any intel or anything that you knew about the year 2019 and related to what we're speaking on, or
yeah, I do. That's going to be the year,
and I wrote about it as
well. That's going to be the year of schooling, of learning, of finding out that none of the basis for our hate is valid, all that sort of stuff. Just about everything that you can think of that.
Oh my God.
Everything that you can think of that should have been is going to be. It's coming.
Yeah, I wrote about it being a curse lifted off of this planet. And I wrote about it as far as shifts within not only the homestead, but the shifts between religious backgrounds and the shifts between the racial backgrounds and how everything is just kind of, it was basically like a curse being lifted, and that's what I kept labeling it as. And it wasn't something intricate, it was just always a page and a half or something like that. I'll write it down really quick because I will always get things for 2019. And now that we're coming into it, it's funny that you were saying that it's the year of learning, because that's also what I was saying. It was like a graduation, and it was the lift of coming in to something new. So that's a great confirmation.
What you're doing is spiritual auto writing. Your higher self is dictating to you, and you're writing it down. That's basically what's going on.
When I was in high school, my sophomore year, and this is I found out about automatic writing too, because before I knew of it, but I never realized that's what it is. And then with my drawings too, my drawings are always something extremely relevant. And with writing my sophomore year, I was sitting, and I hated this class. I loathed this class so much. It was so boring. It was history, and I just really didn't want to sit in there. So I would just write or whatever. But then I would have to make sure I'm paying attention. So sometimes I would just make lines and just scratch on the surface of the paper. So I was doing that. And then when I looked at the paper, I realized when I was doing it that my hand felt like it wasn't there. It was so light and just so. My hand.
You need to find somebody.
So when
who is. Yeah. You need to find somebody who's an intuitive exertionist, and that's a scientific term for somebody that has psychic and or spiritual abilities that can help you with what you're doing. It gets better, not worse. Now, what's interesting about this is that when we have the transition, everything that we're doing now that's positive, such as what you're doing, is magnified, multiplied. So, bear that in mind.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Thank you, Selu. I love you. We'll chat. We'll get a chance to chat. Okay. Thanks for calling, Selu. Peace.
All righty. Much love. Thank thinking.
So Drake, as far as 2019, so we're kind of going to go through school again to kind of solidify the higher energies and just defrag all those false systems of reality that were perpetuated on us to keep us capped and limited in these very limiting ways of thinking, like prejudice, and forms of separatism, like what have you.
So like the programming you get from TV advertisements.
Basically.
Okay, well, the thing is that when the transition takes place, your mind will automatically supersede that stuff. Okay. You'll realize what it is.
Absolutely.
And at that point, everybody gets their light bulb turned on and are fully awake.
We're going into unity consciousness. Is this correct?
Do what now?
We're going into a form of unity consciousness. Fielding into...
No. It's individual with each individual, okay? Mm-hmm. And each individual, it doesn't matter who you deal with, has their own ideas about things, has their own feelings, okay? All that is taken into account, and you are shown individually how it works and what to do with it, how to be sure that you don't overstep certain protocol limitations. One of those is you don't read other people's minds. Okay. That's supposed to be a no-no without permission. Consequently, though, walking down the street and somebody walking towards you, you'll know the intention of that person before you ever get close to them.
That's true.
Well, now here's the other part. And somebody who is really aware can change the intention of that person if it doesn't happen to be cool.
So someone can actually change that aspect of that's negative.
Yeah.
So if someone's thinking of murdering someone, they can kind of transmute
All
it.
All you do is ask them a question. Like, what would you want to do that? Why do you think that I should be your target?
Okay.
Or whatever. You'll know it's an intuitive thing. You will know at the time the question to ask.
Okay. Sounds good.
It works every time. It's nice. Now, here's the other part. Think about it this way. You'll know whether or not a thief's around. You'll be able to feel it.
Well, I'm from New York City. Yeah, I'm from New York. I feel it already. New Yorkers, we have that intrinsic. Yeah, on the subway. I'm being honest. You're trained to your sixth sense are actually trained to be able to sense danger more so than I feel like when I go to other places, and I've traveled the world. I feel like that is something in New York is very unique in that we're trained that way for our survival. So I can see someone and know right away. I can feel their intent, whether they're going to harm me, whether they have an affinity for me. I can see it from a mile away, and I can feel it. And that's one of the things about New Yorkers that's very unique. Maybe California might be the same, maybe LA. I'm not sure, but taking the subway does that.
Hold on, though. That works everywhere.
Okay.
And with everything. Discernment will tell you not to go play with alligators.
Absolutely.
Or whatever.
Absolutely. And if you don't have that discernment, usually there's some sort of mental issue. Something mental, someone's mentally incapable of being able to discern those things.
Well, you have a large population out there of people who are basically harmless and innocent that don't have any awareness of what their capabilities are. Mm-hmm. Each of these people have what's known as a guardian angel taking care of that business before it happens, before it comes about.
Yes, the guides.
So
we have guides, some angelic guides, and some are family-based, ancestral guides that accompany us. The posse, I call them the posse. The posse that comes with you, that kind of give you the whispers and the cues in order to walk balanced in the world, and they're able to kind of move you in a direction if it's something out of your network of what you're supposed to confront or deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. Let's see if we'll take another caller from that one. We have 704-4770. You're on the line with Drake and Flirtman. Peace, family. 4770. Oh.
Peace, Brian. How you doing?
Peace, family. I'm good. How you doing, C-Star?
I'm holding. Congratulations on your conference.
Thank you. Who am I speaking with?
This is Aisha, singing in the trees in North Carolina.
Hi, Aisha. Hi, Mama. Thank you.
Hi. All right. Okay, I'm at work. Let me step outside real quick.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Drake. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. Y'all hear me well?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, because, I'm in the truck yard, so I'm trying to get to a quiet spot. So my question
That's
was
okay.
real quick.
Yes.
My question was this. What about all the fear that's looming where a lot of us feel like we do need to leave America and stuff, and the threats of all the FEMA camps and, the biological warfare? What of this? Because this is real stuff that, average people are concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Myself.
Well, they're right in not being concerned. Okay? All of those things that everybody knows as adversarial to their existence and nasty to their being healthy and whatnot are going.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may be.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's a few cases they're going to have to be taken care of by force. But personally, I would not stand opposed to an ET with their weapons. I know what their weapons can do.
Well,
so,
what do we do about our regular government and stuff?
Well, the reset is going to be a combination, not just of government or governance, as people understand it in philosophy. It's going to be a reset of realistics. People need to have better than what they've got, and all of a sudden, everybody's heard about the golden age. It's getting ready to pop. And boy, we're going to have fireworks like you ain't ever seen.
What about our safety and our well-being?
That's exactly what it is. That's the primary directive for each individual, that their health and well-being is to be held above all other things. So your health and well-being are tantamount to being absolutely important to the people providing it. Okay?
Okay. One more thing. What about the ETs that we may have some kind of relation to? Are we to look forward to hearing from them or seeing them and such?
Well, if you have when you say relation, are you talking about blood relation or are you talking about just friendship?
Right. All of those, especially
okay, well,
blood relation.
You get to meet them. Time to have a party.
I'm down with that.
This is a jubilee. This is like a jubilee, a peaceful reset to help and restore. And what of the pole shift?
What of the who?
Safety in the land. Safety in the land as far as pole shifts are concerned and all of the things that would change on the planet.
Well, the things, everything, including the planet, all the living entities on it, go through this transition. At the point of the transition's completion, people will find schools, people that will show, entities that will show them where the schools are at, teach them things, etc., so that they know what they can and cannot do.
Okay.
I think she was.
Okay.
I think she was.
You. It makes it sound so good, like it's.
I know, right? It's too good. It sounds so good to be true.
Okay.
I know we're used to hearing like things that are so diabolical to get us to the movement of change, but it is kind of nice. It's kind of different to hear that it will happen in a way that doesn't require us to go through tragedy. I like that. I actually like the better of this than having to go through like hardship just to get to the to the golden age. you got to fight and claw to get to the golden age. This sounds, I'm willing to accept something like this as opposed to more of a negative provoking to get us to the other level.
Right. To make the masses run. Okay, this is my final thing, and Florence, you can click me off after I ask this. I just wanted to ask about the sun and the suns that people have been talking about seeing, like what are their energies and how does that affect us? And, just the planetary influence, if you could just give a little bit about that. Thank you guys very much. Peace and much love.
Thank you. Peace.
All right.
Well, now, you're going to find that there's some seemingly adversarial problems with the transitions symptoms. The sun being one part of that. The sun's been adjusted. I don't say it's been adjusted tremendously from what it started to do. You have to understand that the cabal, the bad guys, do have a very large amount of control over a whole lot of things. And as they try to initiate something, they're stopped. Now, they were going to try to incinerate the planet, and that's been stopped. And the individuals that were trying to do it have been vaporized. They no longer exist. Okay. So that has been taken care of. Now, David Wilcock did put out a thing as to the manner in which our solar system travels. It's like a tornado, round in a circle in a vortex.
Yes.
And it continually moves along. We follow the sun, etc. And when the sun makes a funny turn, which it has made, we have to catch up, and we have to adjust accordingly. And some of that got skewered or screwed up a little bit by people in the cabal who can affect those things. That's been rectified. And as I said, all the people that they could find that were participants, they don't exist anymore.
Okay. It sounds great. I mean, and again, it sounds in alignment with many of the intel with the ET groups are saying that a lot is being handled on the back lay, whether we know it or not, that a lot of beings are being arrested and deactivated from those positions to having, to being able to control and do harm to us. So I kind of see it. I see it out in the world. And, again, I accept that kind of recalibration, reset, to be able to remove those beings who are causing such harm to the planet and ourselves. I'm okay with that. My thought is, I wanted to ask you a question as far as once we are doing this reset financially, now, is there anything other than obviously prepping, being a 10 plus year prepper, I'm prepared for anything as far as having, I can grow my own food. I know how to filter water. I know how to survive on a dollar or a penny. As far as many of us were talking about the aspect of having money in the bank as a nest egg, some people have larger amounts of money, and we're thinking of transferring that money into other currency as the US dollar is about to do a change. Do you have any word or any advice as far as that's concerned? Would it be smart for us to, change our money and put it into another system? Not necessarily a Swiss bank account, which our brethren usually did back in the days and still do to this day. But what do you say about that?
Well, there's several transitions on that coming up. First of all, be ready for the possibility of interruption of services.
Yes.
Be that a phone, electric, whatever.
It already started.
In other words, have about 2 weeks supply on hand.
Okay.
That should see you through. If there is an interruption, now that's the other part. That's not absolute. So what you're looking at in terms of finances is that my advice to everybody is to take everything out of the bank that you don't need to have in there to cover the checks you write to pay the bills.
That's right.
The Treasury is supposed to come out with a Treasury note that is gold-backed.
Yes.
And that is supposed to be exchanged one for one with our present greenback or Federal Reserve note currency. So you're not going to lose anything, and you're actually going to gain. Two reasons. One, the money that we have presently in circulation, known as the Federal Reserve note, is a debt instrument.
Yes, and it's backed by a note. It's not backed by gold or silver anymore. It's a note.
Yeah, it's backed by credit.
Yeah.
So we have a gold-backed Treasury note, which is an equity instrument. Now, here's the difference. People paying $3 to $5 for a loaf of bread, it's going to drop when you start seeing that currency back down to where it's supposed to be, like 50 cents.
Yes, back in the days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, after we have gotten ourselves resurrected from the dead, or however you want to get that in terms of the economy, at that point, then, the ideology of doing away with currency will come out officially. Now, at first, you may get a credit card type of thing. Maybe not. That's not set in stone yet either, but the probability is there. It may take us 2 years to totally get rid of money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? But within the period of time of that 2 years, you have to remember that more and more ETs are coming with care packages. You have to realize that more and more people's needs are being taken care of. And the funny part about this, and I don't want to really step on anybody's toes, but any form of belief system was made up. Now, and a lot of people don't like that very much, but that's the fact of it. Back in about 3000 BC, there was a meeting in of all places, Tehran, and they decided all of these things. And by decided, I mean they actually scribed it, wrote it down. This is this, that's that, and here it is. So there is belief. I call it the Creator. Now, the Creator is the one that made us and the planet and solar system and universe.
Mm-hmm.
The Creator does not deal with individuals. That's something that everybody likes to think that God or the Creator or some super entity is going to answer their quote prayers or, help or whatever they're hollering about.
Yeah.
What happens is that the higher orders of ETs make decisions on what should and should not be. Everybody gets their questions or, let's see here, wants and needs seen to. Now, you got to remember, as this goes on the surface, who's going to acknowledge government if their needs are taken care of?
That's true.
Okay. Now, ETs, the setup for interstellar or interplanetary commerce requires only 2 or 3 things. One, you settle all the fun and games. Whatever kind of BS or horse hockey is causing problems, you get rid of it. Do away with it. Number 2, each state, and by state I mean U.S., China, Russia, whomever, each state, and in some cases, multiple states, like 4 or 5 small countries, will have a representative. This will be known as the World Council. Wherever the greatest need is, that's where the money, that's where the food, that's where the clothes, that's where the help goes.
Yes.
Okay? So, what eventually happens is then we will end up with a council, which will be planetary, as representatives to the Interplanetary Council.
Yes.
Now, that's the lowest level of councils that there is.
Yes.
Okay. These representatives then will go and listen to what the council has to say about Earth. And they will present what has transpired, changes made, and all that happy stuff. It is at that point then that the representatives will be sent back to the planet, and that council will make a decision. Are they ready yet? And
Absolutely.
At that point, we have either advanced ourselves or not, to a point where we will be allowed to have interplanetary commerce. Yes. And that's basically how that goes.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
Well, there's five or six councils. The Interplanetary Council, like I said, is the lowest is below on the totem pole. The next one up is the Intergalactic Council. This is where you're allowed to go from one. I don't know if you've seen a picture of the galaxy, but it looks like a star with I don't know, bent tentacles or whatever, or where the star point got bent a little bit and is turning. In between those two tentacles or whatever you want to call them,
yes,
that is interstellar.
Okay.
Then you go to the full Galactic Council, and we start helping other people who are getting ready to transition or looking to
Star Trek. Yes,
so,
Shannon got it.
And we go from there.
Shannon said it. Yes, Star Trek. We get to the point where we're, space, the final frontier. These are the voyages. Just like, remember the preamps? Yes, absolutely. I think, this is the goal to be, and I've always spoken of this so wonderfully, as being one Earthling on one planet as a representative, as opposed to 50 other subsidiary beings. Oh, I'm African American. Oh, I'm Irish American. Oh, I'm from here. I'm from there. We are one Earthling on one planet. We represent a species on one planet. And in order to be part of some of these groups of, galactic groups, we are going to have to relieve ourselves from these idiosyncrasies, a lot of these biases or these separatist type of conscious way that we see ourselves, in order to feel together, because we're one Earthling. We may be amongst beings that are non-corporeal, or maybe they look like an opposite of us species wise. How can we do that if we're so busy fighting each other of different complexions or different languages?
You'll never meet a higher entity as long as we're fighting.
Absolutely. And nor would you want to. I wouldn't want to hang out. I wouldn't want to hang out with a bunch of hostile natives who are not even self-aware enough to know that they're one species on one planet. They're so busy fighting amongst each other. Who wants to be a party to that? No being that tired.
We first need to make our own party.
Absolutely.
And we have to understand that we are a part, irrespective of the differences of the human race.
Yes.
And once we get to that point, and we can overlook the physical differences or ideological differences and say,
absolutely,
hey, man, how's it going? When we get to that point, okay, then we won't have representation to the Galactic Council.
Well,
my understanding is that they're looking for anywhere from 3 to 12 people from the planet Earth.
Yes.
To visit the council.
Absolutely, and some of us already are starting to have those inter relationships, not yet fully, but just the pre-qualification to get to those aspects of having those meetings.
That's one of the things I do, is go to meetings.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons I know a little about it.
Absolutely, as a few others do. I agree. And as I've seen in the future before, we are going to get there. How we get there is maybe going to be slower or faster based on our collective consciousness coming together and allowing this type of healing necessary to get us to the point where we can resolve, not even issues, just forms of MK Ultra. mind control caps that are in our minds. If at the end of the day we all want the same things, it's so odd that so many people have issues with each other because we look different or we speak a different language, but our base wants and needs are generally all the same. Healthy food and water, a warm place to stay, and happiness and joy in our family safety. I mean, that is the basis of humanity, of our wants and needs. And once we get to that point where we accept that we're all one earthling on one planet, this will be an easier transition. So I look forward to that. And it's already happening on the higher levels. Again, the beings that I'm in contact with are doing that, and I've accepted that is part of why I've become a liaison between many different interrelated groups, some species as well. So, okay, so let's go to taking another question, if we may. Okay. Again, if you're asking a question, please push the number 1. Sometimes I see you guys on here and you forget to push 1 to ask your question. The number is 515-605-9881. You only have 21 more minutes to call into the live queue. We go into a bonus hour afterwards, but you may do so at any time. So make sure you push the number 1 if you have a question. I'm going to go back to our first caller. That was 903-1174. I didn't give him a chance to answer. So 903-1174, you're on the line with Drake and Fleur Room. Peace, family. 903? Sometimes they fall asleep. 903-1174. You're on the line.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Peace, Sunstar. Who's that?
I was just listening to the show.
I
want to interject something.
Hey, Wade.
About the Trump's announcement about the Space Force.
Yes.
And if Drake could go a little more into context about that and what they're trying to do, disclosing the secret space program.
Yeah, Trump already said they were going to have to disclose that by accident. He said he's going to militarize space, and he hadn't been briefed, and consequently he's now been briefed. And you notice he's not mentioning it anymore?
No, he's not.
Okay, there's a reason for that. The timing of the release of that information should take place along with E.T.'s introduction and a bunch of other things. So you can expect it at that time. Now, the problems that humanity has is that the technologies we've garnered from E.T. craft that we've reverse engineered, let's see here, it'd be kind of like driving a Model T around today, and you'd have a modern 4x4 ready to go kind of thing. That's the differential. ET is then even further advanced. I know some of the things about those advancements, and they've asked me not to say nothing about some of it, but the secret space program did infringe on ET once. It won't make that mistake twice.
So can you kind of, for those who don't know what the secret space program, because a lot of the pseudo ET contact, there's some people who I take issue with in the ET, but that's another show. They talk about the secret space program. Can you kind of give people an idea of what that is? Some of our people may not know what the secret space program is.
Yeah, it's a program that started when just before NASA ended the shuttle program and shut down, supposedly.
Yes.
Well, the budget has actually multiplied.
Yes, it has.
To NASA. And what happened was that they put all this money on. Now, this is a worldwide event. This is not just us. We pulled from China, Russia, India, any of the capable countries who could contribute. And we built what is known as a cylindrical or a cylinder type home craft or mothership. The problem with that is that there are a lot of flaws in the basic design of cylindrical craft, for one, but they outfitted it with the most modern technology that we had reverse engineered, and we also came up with what would be termed a fighter craft and a few other things of that nature. what happened is that we decided we were all that, or somebody got a wild hair somewhere, and they decided they were going to shoot at ET with the ET weapons that they had on board.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem was that they burnt a flag off of the flagship of the commander of a fleet of ETs. And the first thought was everybody wanted to just simply destroy the whole thing. And the commander said, no, I got a better idea. And everybody said, what's that? Watch this. He turned his shields on, and he took all kind of fire from both the mothership and all these little fighters. But he went down and cut the end off of the cigar. Then he flew back to where he was stationed before, told the fighters that they had best dock and help with repairs, and sent a message to the commander of the mothership stipulating that if they wanted to survive and did not want to see what the newest weapons can do to something as minuscule as their mothership, don't fire on us again. Under any circumstances, for any reason. The commander of the space ship, the Earth mothership, it's an EM number, agreed.
Okay.
We have not had any other problems between the two.
Okay.
So Trump was not briefed on existence. Trump was not briefed on parameters and a bunch of other things. Now, ET decided that the only thing that they would allow in terms of commerce from our planet to the mothership would be supplies, food, water, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And that's it. Okay? They have been systemically and totally and completely otherwise cut off. And they've been told that. You misbehave again, you won't even get your food and water.
Wow.
Well, when you're in space, it makes things a little bit difficult.
Absolutely.
Consequently, yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. You know,
we'll play nice.
We'll make sure the only thing that guy flies from now on is a toilet. So that's basically where that's at.
I hear that. A question also as far as Trump's concerned. Now, we do have jump rooms, which we know they take to Mars. Remember the car that was sent from Tesla? The car that was going and it was flown, it was playing music, I think like David Bowie. It was on its way to Mars. What was the reason for that? I don't know if I had some intel on that, but I wanted to get your take on it because I have my own take on it.
It's called showing off.
Okay. That we can, so we're showing you we can do
it. Well, do you know very much about Nikola Tesla?
Well, a bit, yes.
Okay, then you're probably familiar with the car that he drove around, that his nephew drove around for 2.5 years. It didn't have a gas tank.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He screwed everybody's mind on that one.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what was it ran on? What type of energy was it ran on?
Say that again?
What was it run on? It wasn't run on gasoline. What was the fuel?
He put an electric motor in it. It ran on Earth energy.
Okay.
Induction.
More argon energy or some other form, crystalline energy?
No, it's hard to express. Earth energy is its own deal.
Okay. So it was ciphering from the Earth energy, so he was able to find a way to actually allow the Earth energy to fuel the car. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's inner Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Makes
pretty good size gas tank, I think.
As far as the what was I going to say? Have you heard about the rainbow energy? I actually experienced an event. I was curious to know if you know about the rainbow energy that came in. Supposedly it came in March. I experienced a rainbow event. Do you know anything about that? There's actually a movie that was detailing this with predictive programming called the what was the movie called again for a family? I forgot the name. I always forget the name of the movie. It's very relative. Anyway, do you know about the rainbow energy that hit the planet that was supposed to be a wave that was transmuting everyone's energetic field? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Annihilation was the movie. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Aborzine. Annihilation. Thank you, Andrea.
No, the rainbow is what we're going to see in terms of the energy waves that come to us.
Yes, we're
They're
seeing
not
it now.
done yet.
Okay, we're seeing it now, and I experienced a huge rainbow event that transmuted me to another realm of existence and consciousness. It was detailed by someone who was a QHHT practitioner, Allison Coe. She had spoken to, during a QHHT session, a couple of them. She got some intel speaking about this energetic rainbow that was coming in waves, and I didn't really take it seriously, but obviously it came and it affected me, and I experienced the full blown on event. So I I didn't know. Yeah, it was all rainbows. And then after that, the rainbow telepathically communicates. I see it everywhere. Many of our people are having interaction with the rainbow, this rainbow energetic field. So your take is?
That is the essence of high-level ETs making sure things come out right.
That's right. I agree.
Now, the other part of it is that we've only had two major waves. We got 3 more of them.
Okay.
So expect they get a little whoopity-doo when it charges their batteries.
Absolutely. I again, with that wave I experienced, it was something that was so profound. It changed me in ways that I couldn't have I don't think I could have done on my own, even with my own conscious level of expression. You know, it really transmuted me, and it showed up in the world and how I expressed it. So it's interesting, and I know that generally it'll come around at the same time of year. Okay, so let's speak about Mars and the Martians and the jump rooms that are going to Mars, where some of these dark Kabbalists are trying to escape. Now, what's going on Mars? Because I know there's a couple colonies there, and one being part of the U.S. Conglomerate. What say you as far as what's going on Mars right now with all of the different changes that are happening on Earth?
Well, that's
a loaded question. I'm sorry.
Complicated, but I'll hit it.
Okay.
First of all, you've got about let's see here, 10 different races of ETs occupying Mars.
Yes.
You have one of them is original. Let me think here. The problem is that most of the ETs on Mars are of a different density level, meaning you can't see them. The original occupants of Mars are in 4D.
Okay.
Now they're in upper 4D. Now that's one of the places we will go for schooling. Bear that in mind. The jump rooms have been closed off permanently. They're no longer capable of being accessed, let alone operated. We did that about 3 years ago. These oligarchs who think they can get away can't. And it doesn't matter where they try to hide here on the planet. We will come and get them. Okay. We have special extradition treaties now with all nations. Now, most of this is going to operate out of the States. People don't like that very much some ways because they think that, Canada complains about us being bullies. Well, no. But screwing the American people and our country over, they ain't going to happen no more. That's the Trump trade objections. The World Trade Organization is supposed to regulate and make sure such things don't happen. And it ain't been doing its job any better than any of the other legislative bodies. So Trump is making an issue out of it. just like the immigration issue. I would have thought that with all the hullabaloo and all the screaming, jumping up and down and whatever about families being separated, that somebody would come up with legislation to change our immigration law. And what's funny is, ain't neither party, independents or anybody else, done squat, other than scream and holler about family separation.
Well, I don't see any changes. Yeah, I haven't seen any yet that are being passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I'm looking at is, what does it take to get these podunks, these seat warmers, to do something? And that's the House and the Senate, etc. What does it take to get these people off their butts? I have offered that being allowed to go in there with an AK-47 and 30 rounds of ammunition.
That'll get somebody moving. That'll get somebody moving.
Exactly, and spraying way above their heads so nobody gets hurt. And saying, okay, now, let's see some legislation on immigration law. And we want to see it today.
I'm sure that would happen. Yes.
So, why is it that the FBI is too busy to take care of the terrorist group Antifa? Why is it that the liberals have fallen in love with MS-13 gang members? I mean, there's a large load of serious questions that people are going to have to not only answer, but the ones that are supporting this sort of thing are going to have to atone for what they've done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't like our country, I have stipulated that anybody that's I don't know what you'd call it, squeaky wheel, noisy, problematic, Maxine Waters, Pelosi, Schumer, send those freaks down to Venezuela and let them vacation there for a while and see how they like doing without toilet paper and food.
Well, we have, what's interesting about what's happening there is we have a lot of people from Venezuela getting political asylum here in the States, allowed to come here. They're not allowed to go back even to visit family when they take asylum here. But what I found is so interesting is they're coming here, but I also know people that are going down there who are actually okay, but they're going under the system of being an American living in Venezuela or Brazil, South America, and they're very cushioned. Mm-hmm. But as far as the people there who actually live there that are natives to there, they're having an uncomfortable time. So it's interesting that I'm seeing a shift of people moving. Like you said, the pole shift. It's a pole shifting. People shifting their poles. People moving from South America coming here to the Northeast or the North, and people from the North moving into South. So I think it's all relative. And there's something interesting about that kind of shifting of people from place to place based on quote unquote economics. Because again, it's I'm noticing Venezuelans coming here, but people who are American going down there living very well.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things I see as a problem, and it's a serious one, and that's the problem of asylum. One of the things that's been discovered is that a lot of the kids that have been so-called separated from their families,
yes,
that is not their family.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of your drug smugglers, murderers,
yes, they take children.
Members,
yes, they do.
Your kid,
yeah, they do.
And they say, "Well, here's my son. I'm seeking asylum."
I agree with you.
And well, this statistic comes from a combination of ICE and local authorities that have been trying to place these people. So now what they're doing is they're having to go through what's called accelerated DNA testing.
Yes.
To find out if these people are even related.
Absolutely, they did
and
this.
Right now, it's only running about 20%, give or take.
Well, they did this in the Netherlands as well when they were doing political asylum for so many of the Syrians coming in. There was a lot of male populace coming with children, which was odd. And then they found out that some of these I think women and children, I think that would be a better system. I'm not saying males don't deserve asylum. I'm just saying once you come from a system where they're coming from countries that have been decimated, there may be some residuals, people want vengeance. So I thought it was odd that in Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, and also in the Netherlands, they were allowing asylum to men coming with children. Where were the women? I've never seen anything like that before. And then you had a lot of the heinous acts of aggression in those populaces with those immigrants that did come in. Not always, but it did come in, because I found it very odd that you're allowing men in the country as opposed to women and children. Women tend to acclimate very well with their children, and they tend to assimilate better. They just do. But
the thing about it is there's no family units.
No, well,
a lot of it's bogus. And like I said, right now the tests that have been being run so far, it's running at a 20% accuracy of true blood relation. So, that leaves 80% unaccounted for. So, like I said, we need to have some serious changes made, and nobody seems to want to get off their butt and take care of it.
Well, we have to take some accountability too. It's going to
have to be taken care of. I know that.
Well, we need to take some accountability too, because a lot of these countries that have been decimated have been done under the guise of America and Europe, and have gone to these countries destroying the infrastructure and destroying family systems. So, as above, so below. If you do something, can't stop, if you start something,
90 seconds,
then you have to know there'll be a consequence to that. So when you're destroying someone's country, those people may want to come to your country and destroy yours, So it's all relative. You know what I mean? There's no victims in this party right now.
I agree.
So, where does North Korea... Okay, wait, hold on a moment, Drake. If anyone's calling in, you have less than 60 seconds to call in the live stream. We go in off stream after this, but you won't be able to call in. So if you're going to call in, you call in now. The number is 515-605-9881. Again, 515-605-9881. Okay? What's your take on North Korea? I wanted to ask you this a while ago. North Korea, remember the meeting between the two, Trump and so on? I found that Kim Jong was very scared when he was signing the paperwork. He looks really like a deer in headlights during that first negotiation, which was basically fluff, smoke and mirrors, because nothing really was signed that was tangible, to be honest. So what is your take on why that meeting happened, and what is the ET connection to that liaison trying to go down?
Well, the ideology is manyfold. First of all, the basis of agreements needs to be made, and that's been done. Okay, the idea of using nuclear weapons, according to ET, is a big no-no. So forget nuclear war; not going to happen.
Okay.
And North Korea is slowly, and they work very slowly, coming around to a point where things will be rectified. Okay? There's no choice.
Do you feel he was coerced? He was forced? His hand was forced North Korea? Because he didn't look like he was a happy camper. I don't care if he said he chose that. He looked like he was forced. Like literally when they were sitting down for signing the first set of paperwork, he looked like he was, like someone had like put him in the back, ponied it up, and said, you better sign these papers and look like you're happy about it. I just felt like it was definitely under coercion. He wouldn't have done it otherwise, and nor do I trust that regime, based on his.
Well, the thing you have to understand is that Big Brother China has told them to cooperate.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, that makes sense.
And that's one of the main things. Now, the reason to be concerned, fearful, etc. in North Korea is very simple. They can slap your butt in jail if you fart the wrong way. So consequently, nobody wants to see that sort of a problem, and you don't want to do that with a diplomat because it really creates problems.
Okay.
And so that's there's a like I say, all of these things are very complex. I can break them down to a simplistic surface type of understanding. The problem is that there's a whole lot of negotiation that is going to have to take place here in the very near future.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree. And what groups of ETs generally are connected to some of the dynasties in Asia? especially in Northeast Asia. What are some of the ET
Well,
groups?
That was in the past. It's not as prevalent today as it was in the past.
Okay.
In other words, it's not an open association out in public.
Okay.
But that part is supposed to be coming relatively soon, from what I understand.
Okay. They're more receptive in Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia with alien interaction. I mean, they don't really hide it, and it's on their news. I mean, even when they have sightings, it's based on their daily news. I mean, and also if there's any holographs showing up, like the holographic cities that show up sometimes, they put it on the basic news. They don't really there's a lot of transparency with them, which I agree.
Well, they've had I don't know, a few thousand years experience with that.
That's true.
So it's no big deal.
That's
now,
true.
if ET lands on the White House lawn, you think that everybody and their mother-in-law in any kind of media at all is not going to lose their mind and go, "Ooh, look at that." You know, they will. Right at first, it's going to be fun and games.
Absolutely.
In a lot of respects. A lot of the things that ET wants to impart to certain individuals will be given in paper form for people like me to be sure that it gets to the right person.
Okay.
And so it's going to be really, really interesting as to how fast I can get this done, or how fast they're willing to work with us. First, we got to get to a point where they're willing to work with us. Right now, we got, let's see, last count was like 15 different exercises, operations, whatever you want to call them, cleaning out bases and hives and whatever you want to, however you want to look at that, of nasties. This planet has been infested for thousands of years, and we're now going to the super secretive places and taking care of business.
Can I ask you, what makes one group of ETs more covert and one more overt? What I've noticed is some of us contactees are in alignments with some ETs, some that are more hidden and some that are more overt. What allows for memories? Because again, Corey Good will talk about all day. He's busting hives and blowing up programs and bases. Why is his memory so overt? If in fact it's true, and then other contactees are having pieces, little pieces of the memory, even though they're having a heightened amount or superseding his level of contact with ETs. Why is it that his level of intel is more robust and overt as far as his memory, and others are more sub, meaning that they have little fractures of memory that are allotted based on maybe being exposed to certain technology that does defrag their memory, which we know happens quite often more than not. So why would someone like David Good be more authentic as opposed to someone like Jill, who's having very daily contact but has a little memory of it?
It depends on what's discussed, and it depends on what the memories are that are removed from the capability of your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
In order to make sure that an ongoing operation is successful, you have to have secrecy.
Yes,
Just
I agree.
Simple, okay?
I agree.
When something is out in the open, and that can be a variety of contact relations with a whole bunch of different entities, that means that there's a combination of things going on. Number one, trust. Okay. Number two, capability of the individual to protect themselves. Number three, what it deals with, how sensitive what's going on is. Okay. Those are the three main things.
Okay.
If it's not real sensitive, and it's not something that has to be secretive, then open memory of it is fine.
Okay.
The problem is that somebody who has the capability of power and can really exert it can read your mind. Yes. Therefore, if you do not have within your mind the active memory of something they want to keep secret, doesn't do them any good to hack your head and
exactly. That's also why many people don't have the memories, because it disallows the government from being able to crack your mind open and try to get the intel that they so desire. I agree. But
it ain't the government. That's
oh, well, other groups of people or entities that may want that intel as well. I agree.
So they have to, just like us, they have to be very careful. This is why they're not getting specifics in the mainstream media on what Trump and Putin talked about.
Okay.
I mean, it is paramount to success. It's critical to success of two leaders, Trump and Putin, as an example, coming together and having truly private conversations.
I agree. If at all plausible, and also with the realms of their coming together, forging an allegiance. I'm assuming that's what they're intending to do. It will eventually allow for, again, more transparency, just like Russia's much more transparent in the ET and UFO sect than the US. Maybe that will have some influence more so on what we have accessibility to, which I hope, if not anything else.
Yep.
Because he'll encourage Trump to do so. Now, what is your take on Corey Good? And this is why I asked the question. Corey Good is very big on speaking.
Well, there's a problem with Corey Good.
I agree.
Okay, and that problem is simple. If he is what he says he is, then there are places and ways that he can prove it. Mm-hmm. And I've called him on that.
I agree.
And got no answer.
And it's no proven yet. Yes, I agree.
Well, there are some things that can be verified. And he has the information. He has the knowledge as to where and all that. If he's willing to bring that out, then we got something to work with. But until he does, I don't take anything he says as factual or valid.
I agree.
It's that simple.
Thank you. I agree. I just wanted to hear your take on it. Okay, so
now the first time he comes out with something they don't want him to say, he's a dead man. So he's got to be careful what he does.
That is true. It's a slippery slope, and I just find it interesting that he has a lot to say that he does publicly that's never censored. But if I say one thing that's even slightly connected to a clone or replication, my whole show is shut down. So it's interesting that some people are allotted to speak so overtly, and it makes me question the validity and credibility of their intel based on the fact that they're being so overtly allowed to speak without any sort of repercussions. So, it's interesting.
Corey Good is real. A lot of people say he's a fraud, but he's not. He's real. The only problem is he has places where launches and a bunch of other things have taken place in the past. Like that supply ship I was talking about.
Yeah.
That goes on a regular basis. Where's it launched from, Corey? All you got to do is answer that. Bingo.
Interesting.
That'll take care of that. Then, honestly, that will take care of everything.
Well, I plan to ask him questions. In the future, I'm sure me and him will plausibly cross paths, and I have questions that I'm sure that would come about to be able to verify certain things. But right now, it is what it is. Let's go to another caller, another question. 253-8926. You're on the line with Fleur Brune and Drake. Peace, family. Hello, Peace, C-Star.
Hello.
Peace.
Hi,
love.
I got through.
Peace. Who are we speaking?
Oh, 1 second, okay?
Sure.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, C-Star.
Hello?
Yes?
Yeah, I'm just calling in. My name is Cynthia. I've called in quite a few times.
Hi, Cynthia. Hey.
And I just wanted to hey, how are you?
I'm
I
well.
wish I could make it to the conference, but I couldn't make it this time around. But next time I would definitely
No
make
worries.
it.
Yeah, we have something coming up. I'm planning something coming up sooner because we had such a good time. So I'm planning something. I have to plan something sooner because everyone's like begging me now to do something this year. So we'll have something in the mix coming up. I know that we had such a great time and it was amazing, and I didn't even anticipate that. So because of that, we've got to do another meet and greet, and it was necessary. So don't worry about it. There'll be others.
Okay, cool. The reason I'm calling is like a very simple question. When will the global currency reset happen? That's what I want to know. Is this going to happen, or is something bigger than that that's going to happen?
It's going to be a combination. You're going to have everything from small to huge. Supposedly, it'll take place over a period of about 3 to 6 weeks, from what I understand. Sometime in the fall is the time frame. And they told me not to say nothing more than that.
Okay.
But that's basically what you're looking at now.
Sure.
In terms of major, think about everything that you've looked at that just ain't quite right, switching over to the right, being correct. And that'll give you a picture or a dream as to what you want to be looking for. Okay?
Okay. Okay. I guess that makes sense, I guess.
Well, we'll see.
That's the best I can do. That's the best I'm allowed to do.
Okay. Well, that's good enough. I don't want to get you in trouble, so. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
I just want to let someone else answer a question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cynthia. Take care. Peace
Okay.
and star.
You too. Bye.
Yeah, I think everyone's really more concerned with the global reset. And I think just having a general consensus of when that time frame will happen is good enough. I mean, if we know what's necessary to do to make sure that you have enough on you, that you can, pretty much survive on having a little bit of on you so that you can pay for things if, in fact, something does happen with the banking system. I will say this, Drake. I found it very interesting that right before my conference, about a week and a half before my conference, I was going, Chase is one of our bigger banks here. And I noticed that Chase did something that they haven't done for years. Now, my father worked on Water Street for a very long time, for over 40 years, when he came to the States. So I know the market, and I know banking very well. My father's a numbers man, even though he's passed away. Rest in peace, Daddy. But one thing I did notice that was odd is, as I was going to the bank, I noticed that Chase did something that they have not done, that the smaller banks tend to do. They had a tent outside of their bank, and they were soliciting for new accounts. Now, some people say, oh, that's nothing for everyone. Yes, it is. Bigger banks generally tend not to do that as often. I've not seen Chase do this for a I don't even remember seeing them ever solicit for new accounts. I will see SunTrust do it. The smaller banks will do it because they're looking for fresh new accounts. But I found it very interesting at a time when I know we're about to have a global reset that Chase is soliciting for new accounts. So I always say it's very relative at the time frame we're looking at, that they're looking for more money. And in fact, when the money disappears, they can go run away in the storm with the cash of new accounts. So I just noticed that. Do you think there's any correlation, Drake, with what I saw?
No. What it is that Chase got hit. And I mean, they got stomped on big time. You remember all those false accounts?
Oh, yes, I do.
They're trying to make up for all that.
Oh, I do remember that. Okay, that makes sense.
I've seen their ads on TV. They used to trust us until we screwed it up. And then the screen goes blank. And then it comes back and it shows Chase and says, we're back. And we can guarantee that will never happen again.
Oh, wow. Well, and the mortgage.
There you go.
Okay. Well, they're trying to make up some income. But that was just really odd to see them do that. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
As far as, let's see, there are probably other questions. Now, if anyone has any more questions, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand and push the number 1. I noticed that a lot of people are on the line, but there's not as many people pushing number 1. Maybe that they don't. Okay, here we go. We have 2 more questions. Here we go. Oh no. Okay. So I'll just talk to Drake on my own. So Drake, just to kind of summarize some of the intel tonight, can you kind of close with some intel? Anything else that you'd like to share? Anything kind of roundabout that you'd like to get into?
Well, I'll just enlighten everybody to one thing. You got a bunch of outsiders, mainstream media mostly, making suppositions, trying to analyze stuff that they ain't heard nothing about, and all this other happy stuff. These are the people that are playing checkers. Trump and Putin are playing chess.
I agree.
And I'll just let it all sit there, because we're going to eventually have Russia as a friend and an ally, along with China. The Trident was already decided
years ago. They talked about this years ago.
Well, no, it was culminated. You remember that meeting between China and Russia and Trump?
Yes.
At the Great Wall?
Yes.
That was when it was finalized.
Okay.
Now, the Great Trident goes along with the prophecies when all of the great nations of the North, the great tribes, unite, then there shall be freedom and peace on the planet. Think about that.
So do you think that, what is Israel's take in this? Because again, going back to the same question, Israel, with the Khazar Jews that are coexisting there, that are not Semitics, that are not the original Jews that resided there, what is their purpose to be in a country that is not theirs? They're taking up space in a country, land that is not indigenous to their own gene pool. And what is their purpose for being there and basically sitting idly while all the hostiles around them can barely tolerate their existence? What is their purpose for being in Israel?
You got to remember that Israel was Hitler's idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, most people don't know that. Yes, I'm glad you said that. Most people don't know that.
Well, there's
absolutely
another part to this. None of the countries on the planet would take the Jews, so they had to have a country of their own. And Hitler said, "How about Palestine?" Those people don't care anyway. Well, that is a geopolitical consensus move. In other words, and this is well before the United Nations existed. You had a consensus or federation of countries that decided to take land from Palestine without justification, no compensation, no due process of any sort.
Yeah, they just took their homes. Yes, we know people whose homes were just lived in. The Khazar Jews went over there and just lived in their house, didn't apologize, just took it over like if it was theirs.
You got it. So then you have the other problem. Supposedly the Jews are God's chosen people. There's only one problem with that.
They're not Jewish, though. They're not Jewish.
Well, there's only one problem with that. God says no longer.
Oh, wait a second.
Everybody needs to read everybody needs to pick up that dusty old book called the Bible.
Rewind.
And read.
Wait, rewind. Rewind. What did you just say?
God says that the Jews are no longer his chosen people.
Interesting.
That he would rather have the Gentile, the Goyim.
Fire in the yard,
now,
fire in the yard.
If that don't break the ice, I don't know what will. But it's written in the Bible, and there's been several. It was published in Harrods and other places, and when they finally get over that fun and games of special situations of that nature, then we might get somewhere.
Interesting. So they're no longer the chosen people. It's interesting because that, again, coming from speaking another language as my first language, everything gets lost in translation a lot of times. And I always tell people there's some things in my language that I can't translate. I can translate the exclamation of it, the feeling of it, but I can't necessarily translate verbiage, like word by word, the actual translation. So it's interesting that you're saying that it makes sense, and especially whoever's interpreting it is usually biased based on whatever agenda they are come from based on, you know, nationality, country based. So yes, it makes sense that the Bible would have been translated by perhaps a couple people that did not want that information to come out, that they were not the chosen ones.
Yep. Well, no longer. That's where
No longer.
that takes place in the New Testament.
Interesting. So I find that very fascinating. Yes, Boudica, it's very fascinating. And of itself, you know, they're very, especially the Sephardic, not the Sephardic, the Ashkenazi Orthodoxies are very, very, very separatist. They don't even acknowledge other people. And I would know that if it was God's chosen people, they would be more peace-like and more incorporative and more loving. And they're absolutely everything the opposite of that. They absolutely have no correlation with any form of uniting or unity or any, you know, as far as other people outside of themselves. They may be beautiful people to each other, but they act like everyone else doesn't exist. And that's not a godly disposition, at least in my thought patterns.
Well, that's validated.
So, you know, anyway.
Look, I'm looking to get off here.
Yes.
I'm getting pretty tired.
Yes. So thank you, Drake. I'm so grateful that you joined us this evening. Once again, you gave us a lot of intel. I really appreciate you coming on this evening. And I know the family really loves when you come on. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Peace. Take care. So
you too.
Okay, so Drake is going off. Hold on, family. Let me just, I think when he hangs up, we'll go out. Okay. Drake, you could
Good night, everybody.
Good night. I think when you hang up, I'll get you out of conference. Okay. There he goes. Perfect. Thank you, Drake. Drake came on tonight, and I really appreciate his intel. I think he has a lot of different things, very different take on things. He has a very positive perspective on the future, as opposed to maybe some of the things that I necessarily kind of aligned with. I do accept something more positive. Again, I do like the fact that he brings in the fact that we don't necessarily have to go through any more trauma to bring about very positive things. So I accept if that's what's coming, that is the case. But anyway, family, this is good because I wanted to actually talk about a little bit on the conference and how it went. And also I wanted to detail that I'm getting so many overwhelming requests for the gathering. There are so many people that went to the conference. Listen, I'm grateful of everyone who joined us for the conference, but I'm getting an overwhelming amount of requests that not only do I have something sooner than later, but that many people, because again, for our conference, there were some people who were unable to come. They paid for their ticket and they were unable to come. And that was unfortunate. But again, the people who did come, it was the most loving and boating situation and gathering that I've probably ever had thus far. So just want to put it out there that we are, I'm in the mix of making it so that we have a Fleur-Brune, a Fleur-Brune Experiencer conference retreat that we're trying to do. I'm going to try to do over the next couple months to get us together. I'm talking in the mix with some places that I know would allot for us to come together again. And this will be the post of the conference, a healing aspect, again with contactees and some speakers. And we're going to do some healing work with this one since it will be a retreat. So I want to put that out in the manifestation. You know, when I talk about it, I'm about to be about it. So for that reason, we're going to make sure that we do that. As far as when we do time frame we do it, I would think I would love to do it in maybe like the late fall, maybe winter. It will hopefully be in 2018. It will be this will be more of a retreat based. We're looking for definitely we're looking for more of a more natural based place to go, maybe somewhere where there's woodsy and mountains, maybe more tropical or jungle. So just stay in tune for that, because again, everyone wanted to get together again. It was seemed like it wasn't enough time for us to really collectively get together. I mean, literally, I don't think any of us slept for the entire weekend, a week that everybody was there. I barely caught up in any sleep, and it was such an amazing experience. So, yeah, we'll try to plan for the next couple months. Again, it'll be the extension of what I just did with the Floorburn Experiencer Conference, but it'll be the retreat. And this way, everyone can kind of come together collectively, and we can do some healing work, and also really work on getting fielding together some of the galactic hybrids that many of us are and come from, and really fielding those energies together to heal each other. And I love that Drake talked about a lot of these care packages that will come to help to heal us as well. So another run to the Springs. I know we did the Springs already. Now Drake gave us another aspect that we tried to do. Now we know we have to go across the street to go into Springs. We'll see. I think I'm going to try to do something a little West Coast if I can. So again, I put it out there just to let you know that it's in the mix. I'm going to try to get this together as easily, hopefully as simply as possible. And this will be a follow-up to our conference, and more so retreat style for some healing and some energetic work, and also fielding in some of the galactic families. We're going to start to focus on some of the specific galactic families that we're in contact with, and utilize those modalities to help to heal each other, and also to accept some of these care packages that are coming in according to Drake. So we'll be getting that together. So I'm really grateful again for a wonderful, masterful conference. Thank you again for Barry Littleton, who did a phenomenal job. Listen, there was a lot of trouble with people coming, and there was a lot of inception attempting to stop this gathering. People's flights were canceled. Barry Littleton, oddly enough, his flight was delayed for no reason, and then he barely made it the next day. He had to fly in the morning and talk right after he just flew in. I mean, there was a lot of little inceptions, but listen, can't stop, won't stop, because no matter what they tried to do, we had one of the best conferences that it's not like I've been to tons of conferences, but I've listened to them. And it's not just because it's mine, but I just the people that showed up, the family, each person came and brought so much love and support, and it was amazing. So for this reason, we're going to try to get and mix a retreat in hopefully the next couple months. Get that together. It won't be as elaborate as that. We were at a castle and so on. This is going to be more rustic. This will probably be, we'll stay in cabins, little places on site, and then we'll work on our things that way. So, for that reason, whoever comes to the next, if you missed the Floorburn Experiencer Conference, this way you'll have a chance to go and meet the family in another aspect, somewhere in the woods, in the jungle. So we'll do that. But I'm working on that right now. I'll think of a way to manifest that. And if I'm able to do it, then I'm going to do it. That's just what I do. Okay. So again, I'm going to kind of end this transmission tonight. I thank you so much. Hopefully some of you from the conference are going to get some rest. Again, I've not gotten rest since, and I need to probably, the energies are so high. It's kind of like I'm amped. So it's kind of, we got to get to the point where we're going to kind of take in the energies, transmute it, and kind of allow ourselves to get some rest after a wonderful week of, absolutely amazing interaction with our family. I'm really in awe still. So thank you again. Thank you for joining me again on Aquarius Rising, the 9th Gate. Thank you, Drake, for joining us again and giving us a whirlwind of new intel that we can kind of see if it resonates with us and incorporate that in our schematics. And again, we will be having another show next week. Actually, Alexis K, if you know our salacious guests we had on previously, talking about sex and how it relates and how to really master your energetic field, and actually how to engage with both male and female in a way that would be beneficial. Alexis K will come on, and she doesn't mince any words. So we'll have a more salacious show on next Thursday. If you cannot tolerate insidious language or sexual content, that may not be the show that you want to join. Because as you know, Alexis K does not hold any bars. I feel like sometimes it's necessary for these conversations to be had, because a lot of times there's so many taboos, especially relating to mating and sex. And we know that, you know, the system will perpetuate its own form of unhealthy sexuality perpetually to everyone, to disallow for us to really feel together. You know, you can have masterful sex with someone you're in love with, you love, you have a connection with, and, you know, and also to find a way to be connected, and also to see aspects of your systemic sicknesses that come with perhaps being hurt or abused. She talks about that, and that's why I think she's a good speaker on this topic. Is she's come from the darkness, she's experienced things that are very abusive, and you know, she's experienced the dark night of the soul as far as her sexuality and how she shows up in the world. And I really appreciate how she's able to eloquently, you know, salaciously be able to share her intel and really teach those how to engage in a way that's much more healthier than as opposed to the unhealthy aspect of sexuality. So she should be joining us next Thursday. I already spoke to Alexis K. She was actually going to be on this show tonight, but I definitely wanted to hear what Drake had to share. So not for nothing, Alexis K should be on our show next Thursday. So again, if you really get offensive by sexual terminology, I just forewarn you now, because you know sometimes it's just I'm very faceted as far as sexuality and discussions metaphysically, ETs and otherwise. But if you are really quite, you know, sensitive, this would not be the show. Alexis K, again, does not mince words, and I plan to have her on next Thursday. So join me again next Thursday on Aquarius Rising 9th Gate. I want you to have a masterful, beautiful evening. And again, hopefully I'll be seeing many of you soon in a couple months again at a retreat. So I love you. Mwah. Have a wonderful night and get some sleep. I plan to. Peace. Peace. If I can never end the transmission, I can never do it.